What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Jordy, and welcome back to some more F1 25 driver career mode for the Singapore Grand Prix of Season 2. But if you missed last episode at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, it was a pretty chaotic race, including our very first red flag in F1 25. It didn't change the result too much from what we expected after about halfway through that Grand Prix. We ended up getting a P2. Leclerc, very dominant victory, fastest lap on top of that as well for him. He's not in the title race, at least I don't think he could be at this stage. We've got to keep an eye on Norris, but I feel like if we get a big result over Norris today, I think the championship, the Drivers' Championship anyway, is pretty much wrapped up. But as of last episode, it's the second P4 and, more importantly, a better way of saying it, a second stronger result from our teammate Fernando Alonso in a row. And now Aston Martin are P1 in the Constructors' standings. So not only could we win the Drivers' Championship in Season 2, our first season with Aston Martin, but we could also bring home the Constructors' Championship. I was really hoping Fernando would start bringing home some strong points towards the end of the season, and these last two events have pretty much been exactly what we've needed. But next time out is the Singapore Grand Prix. Let's cast our eyes back towards Season 1, where we got a P4 in the V-Carb. So we were pretty strong around Singapore apparently in Season 1, so that is very interesting now that we're in a much more competitive car. Judging from the R&D, we're nearly neck and neck with pretty much, there we go, progress history. My brain farted for a second there. But we are pretty much neck and neck with the likes of Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull, hence why we've been able to keep up with them. And McLaren have just not been consistent enough. I think McLaren might be dealing with some engine wear as well. Definitely so if Piastri's engine failure last time out is anything to go by, but Piastri has so many engine failures in this career mode. It's actually crazy. He hit 7 engine failures last episode, equal only to Fernando Alonso with 7 engine failures at this stage as well. So Alonso is still yet to equal the amount of engine failures he had in Season 1, so fingers crossed he doesn't do that, because we really need him to pick up the strong results that he's been picking up these last 2 Grand Prix. Hopefully he can even get a podium very soon. But yeah, the next few Grand Prix is Singapore, Brazil, Vegas, Qatar, and then of course wrapping up at Abu Dhabi in episode 40. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, Singapore was a pretty fun time last time out with the V-Carb, but in the Aston Martin, and of course we know weather around Singapore can be very different. It's just time to see whether or not we can kind of get a better result than we did in Season 1 with the stronger car. We'll just have to see. I'm pretty sure we had rain around Singapore last time out, as a new upgrade does arrive. It is only a durability upgrade though, so I'm not really too fussed. We do have 1,000 R&D points now though, so we can have a look at what we could possibly get. These wing mirrors are unavailable, well, that's because I just completely skipped over the redesigned brake ducts right here. So these can arrive 30% failure chance, but they can arrive before Brazil. I feel like failing this early means we could possibly get it like full-blown, like no chance of it not arriving at Brazil. I feel like if we do the 30% failure chance and then it fails, it's not going to arrive until Vegas. So is it Vegas that's next, or is it Qatar? I think it's Vegas. Either way, it's not going to arrive until the next Grand Prix after Brazil. So I'm going to rush it just on the off chance that it does fail, and then we can, you know, get it fully confirmed, guaranteed, that's the word I'm looking for Brazil. So yeah, there's an aerodynamic upgrade for you right there. Chassis upgrades, we'll be looking to get the monocoque structure, 640 R&D points, and I'll be looking to rush that, but we need to get some practice sessions down first. In terms of our vehicle condition, I've decided to put in a new MGUH, as it is 55% worn. I was originally going to keep it because, you know, there's no point really wasting it, but it's Singapore, one of the hottest circuits on the calendar. So, yeah, definitely putting a new one in, that is for damn sure. But everything else, not too different. So let's head down over to the Marina Bay Street Circuit, ready for Singapore, which was one of my favorite circuits as a kid. I'll probably say that later on in my second recording session as we go over qualifying, but this used to be like the only street circuit on the calendar back in, like, you know, the early 2010s. So it's quite weird how everything has changed since then, but also quite poetic because Singapore has always been a decent race. And looking at the weather conditions, looks like we're going to have full rain for the race. That is going to be a strange one. I think last season it was raining qualifying and then the race was all right. I don't remember. You know, it's been a while, and it was a 24 race season. And to be fair, actually, it's only going to be late on towards the end of the race. So that is going to be very, very interesting. That is for damn sure. I really hope it's as interesting as it might look. So it looks like I'll be doing FP3 on top of, you know, the one practice session I usually do, just to come to grips with the possible conditions that we could see in the race. Looking at driver like progress history or car progress history, looks like nobody's made any major upgrades. It looks like everybody's made like a minor upgrade going into this Grand Prix, other than Mercedes, which seem to have made a good leap, I suppose, as opposed to everybody else. And it looks like Alpine have done the same thing, re-overtaking Kick Sauber, who had a really good qualifying with Nico Hulkenberg last time out, but, you know, fell very early on during the race. So we'll see what happens. This is going to be a very different circuit to Baku, but either way, it's time to get into qualifying for the Singapore Grand Prix.
As night falls in Singapore, the track starts to warm up, and it'll be red hot by the time we find out who's on pole for tomorrow's race. Time to set the grid then. Welcome along to qualifying here in Singapore.
Well, here we are with only 5 races to go in the Formula One World Championship, and both championships still up for grabs. We do have a really, really healthy lead in the drivers' standings, but the constructors is blown wide open between ourselves, Ferrari, and McLaren. So we want the best results that we could possibly get, and we'll be hoping for another strong result from our teammate Fernando Alonso. The qualifying lap nearly went off to a bad start as Lance Stroll in the V-Carb, the man we swapped seats with, was just coming out of the pits a little bit later. And, you know, that would have been a huge issue for us, a huge blockage, that's for sure. But we got away with it just fine and set a purple first sector, so clearly it didn't make much of a difference at all. We had just enough space to get past. And, yeah, Singapore, like a lot of tracks in this game, just feel a lot better compared to how they were in previous games. F125 just feels incredibly good to drive on, and Singapore was always one of those that I definitely struggled on. I mean, I mentioned it in the Baku episode. Once you maxed out the cars, especially in F123, it became very, very hard to, you know, brake after a high-speed section into a low-speed corner. And, you know, nothing proves that this game is better at handling that than the fact that we went powertrain only for the vast majority of this season, and I've only just started to put in, you know, R&D into aero and chassis and everything else, you know. So, you know, the car feels great, the track feels great to drive on, and I feel like this is a very, very good lap. It's only a green sector 2 as we cross the line with a green sector 3. It is a very good lap to put us in P2, but still 2 whole tenths behind the Ferrari of Max Verstappen. So a very good lap from the Dutchman right there. This is not a track that he has ever been lucky on at all. In fact, this is probably his one bogey track on the entire calendar. Has Verstappen even ever won at Singapore? I don't know if I have a short-term memory. I might have to look that up, but we all know that Verstappen is pretty weak around Singapore compared to his usual self. So we still have a pretty good chance of getting this pole position, and it is a very good start. Until this section, I take this little straight line for granted and end up losing a good half tenth, so that's not very good at all. I do have the RS save for the rest of the lap, but yeah, I definitely should have used it in that section. We make up a bit of time into the hairpin, of course. We're still around a tenth. It was a purple first sector, just like it was in our original lap. It's a green sector too, so it is we're pretty much matching our laps. Verstappen sets an even quicker time, a 1:28.9. That is absolutely crazy, going, what was that, 4-5 tenths faster? Like, absolutely insane from Verstappen. So I don't think there's any chance that we're getting pole position, but what can we get as we go around the final corner, crossing the line? What's it gonna be? P4, so around our average, at least our best results of the season in qualifying is usually P4. Our teammate Fernando Alonso not too far behind. Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull with a very surprise qualifying result. That's very good for him, but it is a Ferrari lockout in that top two, of course. Very strange how Tsunoda has had such a good result as his teammate is all the way down in P19, but either way, it's going to be really interesting as we head into changeable conditions for Singapore.
Marina Bay hosted a Grand Prix that briefly ran in the 60s and 70s, but the Garden City re-entered the calendar for good in 2008. We missed it for a couple of years, but it was great to come back to the Singapore Grand Prix. And here's our track, 4.94 kilometers long, and overtaking chances into the first corner, into turn 14 at the end of the Esplanade, and now into turn 16 in the newly reprofiled sector that we first ran on in 2023. Still though, it's punishing and tough on the brakes, and the heat and humidity will take an effect on our drivers. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have the rookie, Fernando Alonso, George Russell and Sainz, Norris, Antonelli, Ocon and Gabriel Bortoleto, Hülkenberg, Piastri, Yuki Tsunoda and Behrman, Albon, Gasly, Lance Stroll and Isaac Hadjar, Colapinto and Jack Doohan rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And joining me in the commentary box this afternoon, the First Lady of World Motorsports, Naomi Schiff. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, every driver certainly has their own way of preparing themselves before a race. But I can tell you that pre-race rituals are a real thing. When I was in go-karting, I used to touch every wheel in a specific sequence before I got into the kart. And then I stepped up to cars and had a specific set of fireproof base layers just for race day. So watch the drivers when they're on the grid. Some may be sitting on the floor and isolating, others may be up to other things that they do. But these little things really help their minds get ready for the race.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Well, sorry to any Yuki fans out there. Clearly, he was able to get that position mostly because he had fitted in a new engine and thus takes a grid penalty. And myself and Fernando will happily take that as we are elevated a couple of positions and have a much better chance to fight against the Ferraris. It seems like everybody, including ourselves, is starting on the hards, looking to do one long stint until the rain inevitably comes. We've warmed up the tyres quite well. Looks like it could be a very good start for ourselves. We know that AI have, perfect temperatures all the time, so it's good that we've been warming up the tyres the whole lap just to match that as much as we possibly can. So let's see if we can get a good start ahead of the Ferraris. We've got a good record against the Ferraris, so let's see how it goes as we wait for the 5 red lights. And away we go. Max Verstappen leads away from Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc not getting the greatest of starts, and we're already looking to make a move around the outside of him. Leclerc defends that pretty hard, pushes us out wide a little bit. Fernando has lost the position to Carlos Sainz in the Williams as we have to concede the position to Charles Leclerc. A very good defense from the Monegasque there after a pretty bad start, but obviously I'm itching to get that second place, so we're going to be spending ERS all the way down the straight, peeling off to the right, going around the outside, Leclerc over defending there, and that makes the position a lot easier to gain. So P2 has been gained. Unfortunately, with that fighting though, Max Verstappen has managed to push us out of the 1 second interval here. So we'll have to spend the rest of this lap trying to catch up to him, because if we don't get that DRS, we're going to be in a lot of trouble from the cars behind. It is unfortunate that Fernando lost the position to Carlos Sainz. The Williams, definitely the dark horses in in every race pretty much. They're always cropping up every now and again. Same with the Mercedes, really. McLaren not having the best of weekends. Lando Norris down in P7. Oscar Piastri down in P11. Kick Sauber, a very good weekend for them so far. P10 and P12, respectively. Usually the worst team on the grid, but the recent upgrades have definitely elevated them. That is for sure. The worst team on the grid seems to be between Alpine and the Racing Bulls. So we'll see what happens. It will be changeable conditions, so strategy could change a whole lot. We could get a safety car. We could get a red flag like last episode. We shall see. But for now, we'll have to contend with sitting behind Max Verstappen in P2, who I spent most of my ERS catching up to. So yeah, we're within DRS. We've also dropped Leclerc behind us, so Leclerc might lose a position to Sainz, and eventually that might even help Fernando. Of course, both Sainz and Alonso on the mediums, so if they've got any chance of catching Leclerc, it will be within these first few laps. But of course, we know how good the Ferrari is. I'm, really pushing this car to the limit to even stay within DRS on this particular straight. The AI acceleration, there's so much at the beginning of it that even DRS doesn't really negate a lot of it. So I'm really fighting for my life to just keep this position, to keep up with Verstappen, I mean. But yeah, lap 7 now. It takes us up until lap 7 to have any sort of chance of catching up. Looks as though tyre wear is setting in. Both myself and Verstappen have been racing so hard, so tyre wear is going to set in a lot earlier. As you can see, Verstappen drifting out of turn 3 there, as we now go around the final corner before the first big straight, the biggest straight on the circuit, the best place to make overtakes. As we're spending ERS now, what's it going to be? We're going to go to the right, going around the outside, and the position is gained. P1 for us in the Singapore Grand Prix. That is absolutely amazing, especially considering the later conditions that we shall be having. So yeah, a very good position gain there. We had to be really patient for that, and honestly, it came a little bit earlier than I thought it might. Verstappen definitely might be having some issues with his tyre wear, and that was evidenced by the little drift out of turn 3. But this is a great race for us so far. Unfortunately, not a great race for our teammate, who has lost another position to the Mercedes of George Russell, whose hard tyres are definitely coming into fruition now. I mean, if Verstappen is having tyre wear, I don't even want to know how the medium tyre runners feel. But a very good race for the Williams of Carlos Sainz, and a very good race to be for Charles Leclerc, recovering here. And look at that, really harsh defense from Max Verstappen. The Ferrari pit wall will not be happy about that one, as they continuously lose time to myself. But that is Charles Leclerc gaining a position on his teammate right there. That is the tyre wear coming into play. That's what happens when we're pushing for the entire time. And perhaps I may have done a better job than Verstappen, I don't know. But we are still about 2 seconds ahead of Leclerc, so it's very, very good so far. But the rain has now started to come down. The first drops of rain, you can tell by the halo, has started to come down. So within the next few laps, we're going to see some drastic changes. I mean, you saw the weather conditions. You saw how much rain is going to come eventually. So it is going to end up being monsoon rain, full wet conditions. So yeah, this is going to change quite a lot. But for now, it's, probably the best decision to stay out on the hards. I don't know what's happened to Carlos Sainz. Perhaps he is pitted early. Maybe he's gone onto the INTERS early. Who knows? Imagine that. Or maybe he's lost a few positions. I don't know. But Fernando Alonso, our teammate, is back up into P5. Again, I don't know where Sainz is. I think Kimi Antonelli has had an engine failure. Either that or he has one later on in the race. I seem to remember Antonelli having an engine failure, but as you can tell, we're going very slow through these corners at this point. But my engineer, you can hear him right now, doesn't really think the track's ready for intermediates just yet. So it is pretty slow, but we're probably right on the crossover. And yeah, that's what I thought. Asking for the change of strategy. Funnily enough, it's lap 14 they asked me to change on, which means they'll be pitting Fernando first, which I really don't mind. That means Fernando will be gaining time on one of the Ferraris, that's for sure, and that is Max Verstappen. So Max Verstappen losing the position to Leclerc loses pit priority at the same time. So Leclerc is the one that gets pitted first. And look at that, Hulkenberg, P5 on the hards. He is still out though. So that's not going to mean anything, but it is very weird to see him back in that top 5, especially after Baku. I mean, Baku, you got to feel sorry for him. He had such an horrendous start to that Grand Prix, completely dropped positions. I think he was in the lower half of the grid by the end of it, like near last place. It was very odd, but yeah, as you can see, we're going very slowly through the track on these hards at this point. I mean, look at how slow we are through this chicane, drifting through. But it has been a very, very good stint on the hards, that is for sure. And the rain definitely might have helped it a little bit to keep the tyres cool, I suppose. Who knows? But coming into the pits now, we'll see where we come out. I have no idea where we could. Sainz is in P8, so he might have pitted early onto the Inters and lost time as a result. Who knows? But here we go, hoping for a good pit stop. And it is a good pit stop, so I'm happy to see that, that is for sure. And most likely we'll be on the Inters till the end of the race, unless the weather gets worse, as it might do. So maybe full wet tyres might be the play for the rest of this Grand Prix. But Charles Leclerc looking to take the lead now as we both go around turn 1. I have much less space, so there's a lot less speed for me to carry through. So, unfortunately, we end up losing the position to Charles Leclerc. George Russell having a good race in P3. Verstappen falling to P5. So his race absolutely falling apart, using too much of the tyres towards the beginning of the Grand Prix. Maybe he didn't defend hard enough against Leclerc, if that's even possible, considering the move he made earlier. So, yeah, the position is not going to change too much. You can tell 5 laps later, we're still about the same distance away from Leclerc, but look at how heavy the rain is. There is an almost metallic sheen on the tyres at this point. So who knows what's going to happen. If it gets any heavier, we might have to go on to the wets. Who knows? But I'm feeling pretty good right now. Leclerc is probably feeling pretty good as well. In fact, he's actually gained time on me, upwards to about a second, 1.7 seconds. But he's actually pitting. What? Why is he pitting? And it looks like he's not the only one. George Russell is also pitting, and they are probably not the only ones. I think our teammate Fernando Alonso is also pitting. What is going on? Why is everybody pitting? As you can tell, my car is incredibly stable on these Inters. The wet conditions, the full wet conditions, the increasingly wet conditions is not bothering me at all. I'm not the only one, funnily enough. Lando Norris coming up from P6, jumping up to P2 on the Inters. He could have pitted this lap. I don't think Piastri is neither. We'll have to see what happens with Piastri. But Norris is the one that stayed out. We've stayed out. Norris might still pit on this lap, but everybody else has gone onto the wets. Leclerc has essentially thrown away the race win, if conditions are to be believed. I mean, it feels completely stable on these Inters. It's almost as if the wets don't even need to exist at all. This is actually completely insane how good the Inters feel. In fact, they feel even better. We've made the transition from lap 21 to lap 24 now, and the tyre wear has hardly changed, because the track is so wet that it's cooling down the tyres, and the grip is so good that it just feels like normal intermediate conditions. So I'm literally not having any disadvantage at all. The wets might be marginally faster, but clearly not fast enough to, you know, necessitate another pit stop from the Inters onto the wets. And we end up having a really easy time of it. Lando Norris actually gains a lot of time on us in the grand scheme of things. That might be down to the AI, I don't know. I don't know where he's gaining all that time from, because, you know, I wasn't exactly not pushing or anything, but either way, this is going to be a very easy race victory for us. In fact, we even overtake a backmarker who thought it was a good idea to pit back onto the INTERS. So a 3-stop for Franco Colapinto in the Red Bull. Not that his race was going anywhere anyway, but coming around the final corner now, a very strange victory for us as the entire grid seems to bottle it. We come home in P1 to win the Singapore Grand Prix. Of all the tracks to win, the Singapore Grand Prix was not one I ever thought I would. But there you go.
What a great race it's been then. Another classic Singapore Grand Prix. And they've held on to take the checkered flag here today.
There's still a long way to go, but these kinds of victories and that kind of consistency is what it takes to get to the end.
The Aston Martin team will be very happy with today's performance. And of course, the final results. Another display of excellent driving and excellent teamwork. And a well-deserved first-place finish.
Well, I'm pretty sure our teammate Fernando Alonso pulled off a strong result as well. Piastri nowhere to be seen. Last time I checked, Alonso was also ahead of Verstappen, so that is going to be a big points gain in the championship, which is exactly what we need with just a few races to go. What a victory for us. Definitely extending our lead in the Drivers' Championship. I think it's all but confirmed now with 4 races to go. That we are going to be a champion with Aston Martin in our first season with the team, our second season as an F1 driver, and
fantastic weekend of racing.
Where's Fernando?
Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Where is he? What? DNF? Where did he DNF? What? I would have known. I would have shown you guys if... Oh my... I don't get it. I'm so confused. He's P5 as we go on to the last lap. Speeding through now. Fast forwarding. What on earth? What am I looking at? He's absolutely fine. And this is where it happens, but... He's still going. What do you mean? This might be the strangest bug I have ever experienced on the F1 game. Fernando Alonso deleted by F1 25 in my career mode. I do not get it. I do not get it. What? That is... Oh, mate, that's a giant screw job for the Constructors' Championship. I've got no idea how much points we actually gained or how much we actually lost to the teams around us, but that is absolutely insane. We do still lead the Constructors, but it pretty much only because we scored the same amount of points as both Ferrari drivers combined, 25 respectively. But if we end up losing the Constructors' Championship for that reason, I'm going to be very, very bitter. And speaking of bitter, seeing that at the end of the race definitely made it bittersweet. And look, I'm going to give you guys a bit of insight into recording and editing the production of this episode. I did this race twice, by the way. I had a whole different race around Singapore in the first race where this happened, and then it happened again in the second race. So it's something I can't change. And my theory is that Fernando Alonso was supposed to have an engine failure midway through the race, but there was so much going on in the game's code with the changeable conditions that the game just didn't activate it properly. So it just declassified him at the end, which it just kind of pushes further my point of wanting to turn off AI DNFs in general. They have been a complete mess. Even if he had an engine failure in this race, I would have been angry at it anyway. I think it is a complete mess on this year's game in particular. But that is the end of this episode of F1 25 Career Mode. Hopefully we can still have a good end to the season. Hopefully Alonso gets no more DNFs now and we can still win the Constructors' Championship. We'll have to see. Guys, I'll see you all next time for some more F1 25 Career Mode. What a strange episode that was.